also going to start off with a couple of early videos here.
Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer, and I'm proud to announce the kickoff of Mental Illness Awareness Week. During the pandemic, many Central Floridians have experienced adverse effects on their mental health, and I'm thankful for organizations like the National Alliance of Mental Illness and the Mental Health Association for the support they provide to those in need. If you or someone you know is in a mental health crisis, please call 211 and reach out to these organizations. On behalf of the Orlando City Council, I'm proud to proclaim October 4th through October 10th as Mental Illness Awareness Week in the City of Orlando. Thank you for all you do.
Hello, I'm Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings. It gives me great pleasure to provide greetings to our mental health advocates, hosted by NAMI of Greater Orlando. As our community faces challenging and unprecedented times, the need for mental health services and support are even greater. Serving nearly 4 decades in law enforcement, I've seen firsthand the impact of mental illness and addiction on families and the entire community. My family, like many others, has been touched by mental illness. I want to thank NAMI for their continued efforts to provide free education and support programs in our community. It is through these programs that families have a trusted resource to turn to when it's needed most. Together with NAMI, we are making Orange County a community that embraces diversity, inclusion, and collaboration. And we will continue to work with our partners to increase access to mental health services for everyone. Thank you for your support.
All right, we have one more video from our presenting sponsor, Advent Health.
Our community, truly embodying the whole person care of mind, body, and spirit, especially mental health.
Did we see that last video? Yes, I had an issue with that video. Let's try that one more time. It's only 30 seconds long.
Hi, my name is Tiffany. I've worked within the behavioral health departments at Advent Health for about 15 years now, and I've seen firsthand how Advent Health takes care of the mental health and well-being of our patients, our team members, and our community, truly embodying the whole person care of mind, body, and spirit, especially mental health, because that is the very core of our well-being.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much to our presenting sponsor, Advent Health, and we also have our other sponsors. I just want to give a quick shout out to for all through Mental Illness Awareness Week. So it's important that we have partners throughout our programs, but they all want to make sure that we are focusing on mental health and mental illness. And so I want to give those guys quick shout outs. They are Molina Cares, Icon Park, and that is because, as many of you know, on October 9th and on Friday evening, you will see all of Orlando, as much as we can get, turn green. There's a lot of buildings that are turning green, including the wheel at Icon Park. So if you are out and about Friday evening, look up, you'll likely see something green. Please take a picture of it, send it to us, hashtag Orlando Goes Green, hashtag Mental Illness Awareness Week. We want to give a thank you to Orlando Health South Seminole Hospital, our partners at University Behavioral Center, Central Florida Behavioral Hospital, La Amistad, Seminole County Sheriff's Office, and Palm Point Behavioral over in Brevard County. So welcome tonight. Thank you for being here. We're certainly excited. This is a different sort of experience than we've had before. This is a one-on-one conversation of the two Erics. Eric and Eric are going to be talking tonight. We did that on purpose, by the way. But so I wanted to talk, give you a little bit of background on our our one-on-one tonight. And I should have asked you, it's Levy, right? Eric Levy am I getting that right?
Levy is in drove my Chevy to the
Levy
levee,
as
but the
in
levee
drove my
was
Chevy.
dry.
See, I got it wrong already. See,
Yeah.
I've already been doing. Take two. Okay, so we'll get that all in the editing. So Eric Levy is a midday anchor with Spectrum News 13. He's been there since September of 2017. He moved to Orlando a week before Hurricane Irma hit, forcing him to jump right in with the team. But he loves the culture of teamwork around the newsroom and says it's his dream job. He loves telling stories that catch viewers' attention. He doesn't want to be the guy at the party who people drone out. He knows his stories are always going to impact someone and can even make a difference in someone's life. And that's when he feels that he's done his job. He's an Emmy nominated journalist with more than 20 years experience and started as a traffic reporter in 2000. I hope that wasn't in Orlando, Eric, because not we can't. I'll say thank God. Then he moved to news reporting a year later. The first story he's ever covered as a journalist was September 11th, 2001. And that's still the most impactful coverage he's ever done. But maybe there's even more happening right now. Stories of survival and New Yorkers are what impacted him the most. And I think as we talk, you'll find that Eric probably never thought that the biggest story he would tell would be his own. And so tonight we're going to talk to a little bit about our new storytelling friend, Eric, and his mental health journey to this point. So we're just going to have an open conversation. I'm going to ask some questions. And at the end of it, feel free to ask your own questions. But Catherine, if you want to spotlight Eric, you don't need me anymore. So we can spotlight him. And I'll ask the first question is, Eric, when did you realize in the mental health journey that you really had to put a focus on your own mental health?
I would say, I always knew that there was something, something just was not right, because I was constantly having one of those days. It was just always one of those days. If you ever had one of those days, I was always asking people that. And there were times when I would have panic attacks for no reason. I was having anxiety attacks while I was sitting on the couch in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday, having my coffee and watching my favorite mindless TV show. I would all of a sudden just have an anxiety attack. And then I was getting anxiety attacks on air during live newscasts. I would get anxiety attacks. And
what did that look like, Eric, when you're on air? Is it sweaty palms? Is it breathing? What how does that manifest itself for you? And don't have one now. We're all friends here, by the way.
No. I'm comfortable here at home. No, a panic attack, when one would happen on air, it would be where I would just start. I would lose focus. I would lose focus of what was going on, and I wouldn't be able to live in the moment. I would be stumbling over every other word. And that had happened to me one time back in mid to late March. It happened, and it was a particularly bad one, and I couldn't even get through the rest of the day. The anxiety, but I was looking back after that. I was looking back and realized that. That had happened to me many, many times before, early in my career, but I never recognized it. In the one of the other cities that I lived in, I'd gone to a doctor, and the doctor told me I was bipolar. I'm like, okay, maybe I was. It wasn't until I moved here that I found another medical professional who said, you have absolutely no symptoms of bipolar disorder. I don't know where she came up with that. She's like, you have anxiety. That's it. Do you have anxiety? And I didn't realize that it was actually a diagnosed thing until just recently coming here. And I'm grateful for the support of my my company. I'm going to be honest with you about that, because it wasn't really till I moved here that I finally started to tackle it, and it took a while. It took a while for me to finally realize that I needed to do something about it. But when I was having regular panic attacks on air for, again, no reason, absolutely no reason, I went into my boss's office and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I said, I have to go.
Let me stop you there for a second. Let me stop you there on the, you can't do this anymore. What led to that? Like when you're at that point where, what is it that's telling you you can't do this anymore? Like what flips the switch from I can almost do it to I can't do it anymore?
It just got to the point where it was just exhausting. My anxiety level had just gotten to the point where I just couldn't focus. I could not do my job anymore. I could get up in the morning, I could go to work, but once I got there, it was just so difficult to do the job because the anxiety had consumed me so much. And so I remember going into my boss's office that day and saying, I can't do this anymore. I have to leave. And I ended up leaving work and not coming back for 2 months.
And you mentioned the support. What was the reaction of the boss?
The support was what my boss said. She's like, I think that's the best thing for you. Why don't you go on home? Why don't you get into your comfortable clothes, sit on the couch, relax, and take care of yourself? Not many. And
is that what you did? Did you sit on the couch? How hard was that for you to do?
That is what I did. It was fine because it didn't occur to me that I was going to be gone for so long. I thought I was just going to take a week off, 2 weeks off, but I didn't. I had a conversation with somebody who had made a really decent point, and that too was kind of like an aha moment. Was the brain is a functioning part of the body. The brain is a functioning part of the body. And just like if I broke my thumb, if I broke my ankle, I would need to be out of work for recovery. My brain was, I don't want to say broken, but there was something wrong with me. And I needed to get treatment for it because this is a real deal. This is not something that is, oh, you're just crazy. Just go home and go to sleep or something like that, or whatever. Go have a drink or something like that. Go have a glass of wine. No. If you have a stressful day, have a glass of wine or something like that to relax. But this is not a stressful day. This is a real situation, and it took me a long time to understand that. But now that I do, it's a totally different. It's just a totally different situation. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without the support of my my company and my boss especially, and the people in HR were checking in on me. Coworkers were checking in on me. My boss was checking in on me. My news director was checking in on me just to see how I was doing, and it just made the whole situation that much better.
Eric, take me back to, you said you were experiencing many of these things on air for many years. And when you and I talked before, you said, this is something that it didn't just come about. When did you start to actually realize, wow, when they say what's happening to me is what they're talking about in mental health conditions. Like, this isn't just, oh, I'm nervous before going on camera. This is actually a condition. What was the thought process of getting from point A to point B?
Well, it was Well, point A to point B in what sense? So like, where do you where do you want me
In
to
terms
go
of,
and
you
explain?
said for many years you were having these panic attacks and you didn't know they
Mhm.
were panic attacks. And at some point you started to realize this is really an anxiety condition. I just was wondering, was there an aha moment, or how did you get
Well, that was
just,
the
okay, I'll
aha.
get,
Yeah, the aha moment was when um, I was having a conversation with someone, and he pointed out to me that the brain is a functioning part of the body, and that needs to be
got it.
healed as well. Just like if you were to have broken a bone, that needs to heal. If you had to have surgery, that needs to heal. If you have a problem with your mind or your brain, the way your brain is wired, um, that needs time to heal. But
So back
I'm
to,
not.
then go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go
Because
ahead.
I'm sure you'll. What I
I
was
was
going to
going to
say,
say,
you'll want to.
yeah, I was gonna say back to then sitting on the couch for a couple of months kind of thing is, and healing. What did healing look like? I mean, you said, just not dealing with work and all that, but what for you, what does healing look like?
You and maybe healing in this situation is not the right word. I think it's more just learning how to live with it. I think it's more just learning how to live with it is really what it is. Um, you're not really healing in the sense of you have brain surgery and you have to heal from it. But you're just basically learning how to cope, and you're learning how to live with it. And even to this day, it's still not easy. Um, I still have anxiety. I still do. Um, and that's something that I have to accept. I don't think you can ever. I don't think you can ever get over it. I don't. But I think it's learning how to live with it, and it's learning how to deal with it, and it's learning that you have to ignore the stigma. The stigma of
That's
mental
where I was
health.
going next. Yep.
I'll let you go there then.
No, yeah, that's exactly where I was going next. See, the great Eric's thinking alike, which is, I was wondering if, when you talk about the stigma, and yes, there are more celebrities than ever. Every time you turn around, there's a Simone Biles talking about it, or a Lady Gaga talking about stigma. There's more than ever. But when it's you and it's your job that's on the line and you're a public face, you know, how do you decide stigma's not for me? I'm just going to go for it.
That was, I would say, one of the biggest decisions of my life was to walk away from my career. And I didn't walk away in the sense that I was never going to come back, but I had to walk away from the job that I worked my entire life to get. I mean, this is when in my bio that this is my dream job, this is my dream life. It is, because this is the job and this is the life that I have always wanted since I was little. So I had to do it. To save my career, because it was just going to consume me so much that I wasn't going to be able to do it. And, people weren't going to want to be around me. I had to do something to save my career. And if that's what it required, leaving my career in order to save it, then I was going to do it. There is a stigma of mental health. As soon as I think as soon as you and the collective you, not you, anybody specific, but I think when you say, oh, I have anxiety, people are just like, oh, that's a red flag. It's not, though, because I think people all have anxiety. They just, maybe just don't recognize it. They don't recognize it as being a real diagnosable thing, but it is. And there is so much help out there. I think the stigma has disappeared or dissipated a little bit. I think there's still a stigma, but it's getting better. But and I have numerous triggers. I mean, there are countless triggers that um, that I some I know, others I still don't realize. But I know my triggers. And I just kind of accept it and try to live with it.
Gotcha. In terms of stigma, obviously that's one of NAMI's main missions, is to end the stigma, and we do it in various ways, right? This is one way tonight. We have prominent public figures talking about their own journeys, and then we'll highlight some of the others. But one of the ways we do it is exactly what happened to you. It's these one-on-one conversations. It's people saying, hey, by the way, I have anxiety, or I've been diagnosed, or whatever it is. And that's what happened to you to change you, is you had somebody that says, this is, and in the world of, we have all kinds of stats. You guys that have been on these calls before know that pre-COVID, 1 in 5 is dealing with a mental health condition at any given time. Post-COVID, that's gone up. One of my favorite quotes, and I say it every time, and I see Aaron getting ready to laugh at me over my quote, but is that during COVID, 9 out of 10 of us is reporting one negative aspect of their mental health. 9 out of 10 of us during COVID. And my response to that is always, what's wrong with that last guy? Like, seriously, you can't find one thing wrong in the past 18 months. You didn't feel guilty or anxious or angry or grieving. I mean, come on. So part of this ending the stigma is normalizing the conversation, which is what you're doing, is
Right.
normalizing that, is having that. And I want to see now kind of flipping it, because I know this happened. You and I haven't even talked about it, but I know as soon as you come out and start saying, I need a couple of months off, or I need a little bit of time off, and it turns out a couple of months, I'm sure people started coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, that's me, that's my sister, that's my mom, so talk a little bit about the reactions of others when you became a little more public with what was going on internally. What kind of feedback did you get?
From my friends, I got a lot of very positive feedback. My friends here have really been telling me for months and months and months that I needed to do something, but there was still that bit of denial. And I think I probably ruined a lot of friendships, or relationship possibilities with people. I'm single. It's fine. I'm open about it. I'm not ashamed of that. I don't. It's okay. But I feel like I have ruined possibilities of that. But for the most part, people have accepted that. And when I told my friends that I was going to be out of work for a while and taking a leave of absence, they're like, what do you think we've been trying to tell you? That was kind of their reaction, was like, we've been telling you this. So it's
you're
like,
the
we're
last
glad
one
that
to
you're
know, right? It's like,
well,
what
not
took you so long?
necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was the kind of thing that they were saying. It's like, well, what took you so long? It's like, we've been telling you this for a while, and it's like, but we're glad that you finally, accepted it. But it can happen. It can happen at any moment. I was getting on a roller coaster yesterday with someone, and I was getting anxiety for that, and that was turning into anxiety of something else, and then it was something else, and then it was something else. But see, that's the thing. It happens. It can happen at any moment, but it's just recognizing it, and it's being able to cope with it. And knock on wood, I have not had. I've had a much better work life since I've started my treatment. I think I'm slowly getting used to being around the social settings, because there is the social anxiety as well. I feel like I'm in a better place now. I know I am at work.
Well, I would coach you a
But-
little, Eric, to say you didn't ruin any relationships. Those ones that you think are ruined, you are who you are, and the people who are understanding of that are the relationships you want to be in anyways. And I guarantee you, the people that are in this room, once we get to them, they're all nod and agree with me on that you got to be who you are. And so if there's people that for whatever reason, they can't be around that or whatever. Okay. But I don't think that ruins a relationship. I just challenge you on that to say, those people weren't really relationships anyways. You know, you
Well,
can't be.
but I would get snappy with people. I would just get, you know, and everything like that. Because
I see.
when I would have anxiety, I would get, you know, very defensive with people, and just that's in that sense. I feel like I feel like over the years I have probably ruined what could have been some really good friendships, but because my anxiety took hold of me, I could never, I couldn't be around people and everything like that. I still find it difficult. But each day gets better when I learn how to cope with it.
Is there a
And
comfort level that you're like more comfortable talking to a TV camera than you are in a group of like 4 people kind of thing? Is that part of it?
you would think that I would be petrified to talk in front of a camera, but I actually am much more comfortable
Mhm.
talking in front of a camera to however many people are watching Spectrum News 13 at any given point. But if I'm you know, if I'm doing public speaking, I'm okay with that. But with friends and in social settings, I don't know. There's that social anxiety. It's just
And not
it's
roller
so weird.
coasters. No way and not roller coasters apparently. So.
Well, no. Yesterday, after I finally got on that was fine. But
Well, if it was Velocicoaster, you get a little bit of a pass on that because that
it
one is.
it was at SeaWorld, and I can't remember what it was called. It's the one where you're sitting and then they put you down
Yeah,
flat
it's
and you're,
Manta.
yeah, that's the one.
That one's good too. Yeah.
That's
So
the one. So
so we're into Mental Illness Awareness Week. As you know, we have, Mental Health Awareness Month, but we say the word awareness all the time. So I just want you to talk a little bit about in your own journey, the awareness that, again, back that you got of yourself, and then why is it so important that as a community that we're aware of mental health conditions?
I would say it is important. It's important to recognize it because it is it's a real thing, and you have to recognize that it's a real thing. And a person's struggles, if they're going through a mental health situation, you may not see. You don't see the bandages on the arms. You don't see the ice pack on the person's forehead if they have a headache or whatever. You don't see it, but you have to be aware of it, because if you don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. If you can't see it under a microscope, it doesn't mean it's not there. And that's why I really think you have to be aware that it is a real thing, and you have to look for the signs, and you have to be able to understand that it's prevalent, and you have to be able to handle it. I'm very careful with stories about mental health, because I understand all about it. Trust me, I'm very well aware of what that mental health is a real thing, and I want to do more when it comes to making sure as many people are aware that it is a real thing. But you can get help. But I had some very dark thoughts, but I kept them to myself. I really did, because I didn't know how else to. That was another thing. I didn't know how else to get those bad thoughts out of my mind. I didn't, and I find so that was when that was kind of another straw that broke the camel's back. Was I just didn't want to have to, have that anymore. Needed to do something.
It takes courage to go into your boss's office. It takes courage to come into NAMI and be our first official featured speaker in this. All of that takes courage. In the world of courage, what would you say to somebody listening now or that tunes in later, that is maybe right on that edge of, I know this might be me, whatever, but the stigma's fighting me. I can't tell my bosses. I couldn't tell my parents or my friends. What would you say to them?
Do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else. If you're feeling like the world is collapsing around you, and you're feeling like you're having one of those days every day, there may be something wrong, and that's okay. That is okay. And if people are not going to accept it, that shouldn't stop you from getting help, because mental health is a real thing. And I would say I'm going to keep it clean, but so I'll change the word to forget the stigma. In my off air, I have another word, but forget the stigma. I don't give a flying fig about the stigma. I'm doing what I'm doing, and if I'm very open about it, and if somebody looks at me like, okay, well, okay, yeah, good, that's fine, go right ahead, that's okay.
What I heard this at a past seminar just a couple of days ago was, it's okay to be okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be okay and then not be okay. And it's okay to not be okay and then not be okay, right? So the overall is, it's okay to be, right? It's okay to be, and that's kind of what you're saying, is that, and the friends will stay with you, the companies will stay with you, the people will stay with you. I think you'll find, and as I said, and most of our NAMI family knows, that as you start telling people more about yourself, it opens them up. That's how you end the stigma, is you just normalize the conversations. 50 years ago, we didn't have normalized conversations about one topic. Then 20 years ago was another topic. This is the one that ends now, is that we need to normalize the conversation about mental health.
I don't think a lot of people, I still think a lot of people don't realize that it's a real thing. I really just don't think people understand that it's a real thing.
It's just a bad day. It's not just that, like you said, have a glass of wine, you're stressed out, whatever. And obviously we do lots of presentations on identifying that. I'll do a commercial on that later, but we have one tomorrow night on identifying symptoms and that kind of thing. But I want to then go ahead, Eric.
I overthink things. I overanalyze things. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and start thinking about things, and I'll be up for hours and hours and hours because my mind is going in circles. It's just all of those things. But get help for it. I'm fortunate that I work for a company that recognized, I think before I did as well, really recognized it, and is all about being mentally healthy. But you got to do it for yourself. If nobody's going to listen to you, that shouldn't stop you from getting the help that you need, because it is a real thing. The mind is a functioning part of your body, and that needs treatment too if that is not doing well.
Yeah, this is why we keep bringing new people into the fold. You're saying what we say all the time, and so we're glad to have you as part of our family. Let's kick it over to open it up for questions. I'm sure that questions or comments, I'm sure that our group here has found some things that resonate with them. So we'll do a quick Q&A at this point. Anybody have any questions or comments or anything in the chat? Put it in the chat if you like.
Hi, Eric. I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for continuing to forget the stigma. Love that phrase. I'm curious, I came in a little bit late, I was on another call, but did you touch on maybe when you feel those triggers, when you feel those feelings, what kind of coping strategies or methods work best for you in that moment?
I find myself having to step away for a bit. I step away from the situation, when it gets too unbearable, that's when that's when I'll step away. I'll just have to like take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. It always works out. But I find myself doing a lot of breathing, a lot of deep breathing, because that to me helps a lot. I was prescribed a medication, that I take as needed, and it does help, because I had tried several prescriptions that were like a daily thing. That made my anxiety worse. I mean, to the point where there was one day where I couldn't even speak. Like I was just it was terrible. So I stopped that. But yeah, when I find anxiety coming on, I sometimes just have to stop and breathe. And but it's difficult. It's very tough. But I think when you recognize it, when you know that you have been diagnosed with it, it's easier to cope with it.
And one thing we say all the time is that, no therapy and no medication is a one size fits all for everybody, right? So and of course here at NAMI, we're not psychiatrists or psychologists, so there's my disclaimer, but it is you have to do what works for you. For some people it's breathing,
Right.
for a lot of people it's exercise, for some people it's music. Whenever you get me on the mic, I always espouse the benefits of all kinds of music, but it's important.
Having a support system is very important too.
Mhm.
My friends are very supportive. I've got I think there's somebody special somewhere in the audience who is watching, who knows how nervous I was about doing this, and that person just said the right things. And it's a mixture. It's breathing, it is stepping away from the situation, it is recognizing that you have to step away and saying, that's okay, I have to step away for a few minutes, and getting the help. It's a whole mixture, and having that support system though is huge.
Well, and that's a good segue into what, a little bit of what NAMI does. I think everybody on this call probably knows that, but our mission is education, support, and advocacy, education of the awareness, right, of knowing about things you just talked about, Eric, and then the support groups,
Mhm.
knowing that there's somebody that has walked in those shoes, or maybe at a different part of their journey, is of course the key. So, other
Right.
questions?
Just kind of, to backpack off what Aaron said, thank you for doing this. In your story, I heard a lot of myself, as someone who received an inaccurate diagnosis at first, and it took until, older adulthood before I actually got down to the root of the problem. And, so kind of based off of that, when you look back at, your life and different issues that you dealt with, do you kind of have those moments now where you're like, oh, well, I wasn't just having an attitude problem at this age, or I wasn't just flying off the handle, are there those times that you kind of look back at now, and now they kind of piece back together in your brain as like, oh,
Mhm.
that's why I was doing that.
Sure. Yeah, I remember there was one day at my old job, where I used to work. There was one day in the newsroom where I walked in, and I had to go back home 15 minutes later because I was having a panic attack, and for no reason. I don't even remember what sparked it that day, but I just had one. There's one thing that I will share that I forgot to share earlier. I had always known since I was little, that there was something wrong, but I had gone to, I don't remember if he was a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I think he might have been either a therapist or a psychologist. He laughed at me one day. Laughed at me. I was probably 10 years old. My dad sort of remembers it because he was in the waiting room with me, or waiting for me as I came running down the hallway. I mean, bawling. I'm this 10-year-old kid. I'm trying to talk about my problems, and I've got this guy who's in his office laughing at me. That kind of took that took many years to forget about. But I do remember my dad running down the hallway, slamming the door of the therapist's office and screaming at the top of his lungs at him. And but I will never forget that. I didn't share that, but I think that's important to share, because I did try to get help for this years ago, but there you go.
I think that's an important lesson for those of us, maybe we're not professional therapists, but we're best friends, we're family members, we're spouses, whatever. If somebody comes to you with this, well, one of the things we train is, if you don't want to say the right thing, just don't say the wrong thing, right? Just make sure you don't do the one wrong thing, because it can have, as we just see with Eric, a lifelong consequences. So if somebody's come to you with trust of, or something vulnerable, all you have to do, and we do it every day here at NAMI, all you have to do is say, I know that must be hard for you. Even if maybe you don't agree with it, maybe it's something, maybe you do think they just need to suck it up and get over it. But the worst thing you can say is laugh and say that. You just say, just empathize. Okay. I know that must be hard for you. And as Eric is drilling home, these are conditions. So we say all the time that mental health conditions like anxiety and depression should be thought of as just like physical conditions like diabetes or like asthma. If you have asthma, hey, I got one in my pocket. Look at this, Eric. I got a visual aid. If you have asthma, maybe you walk around with one of these just in case. Okay. Nobody here is going to care that I happen to have an inhaler in my pocket, but there's a stigma of, oh my gosh, of anxiety and social anxiety and all that. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we realize it is far more normal than we think. So other questions, comments for Eric? I see, things like brain illness and finding support all in the chat, but any questions or comments? It's always harder to get them to talk on Zoom. Right, Aaron? Aaron just popped back up. You can't get people to talk on Zoom. They just hide.
Oh my gosh. It's impossible. It's really hard. I have a question, and totally okay to say you don't want to answer this, obviously. But after you had the experience of somebody that you should have been able to confide in and should have been helping you, and obviously it was traumatic and negative and not at all what a 10-year-old should be feeling about their mental health. How long did it take you from that point to kind of reach back out and feel comfortable getting back into that space?
And I'm glad you asked that, because I was trying to remember. So that would have been, let's see, I was 10 years old in so I would say 2015 or 2016. Yeah. So I would say
the answer is decades.
20, yeah, I would say 1990. So 1990 to 2016. Are there any math whizzes? Because I run out of fingers and toes. I don't know how to count. I don't know how to count past 20. So 20 and a few extra toes.
Wow.
Is what that was. But
remember that, folks. Remember that internally. I'm looking remember that when somebody calls this line, if saying the wrong thing could cost you 20 years of recovery and coping. That's an important thing to remember, that it takes a long time.
And I don't know if it's necessarily saying the wrong thing, because it really depends on what the situation is. Sometimes just being a good listener, is, and if you're not giving away medical advice, but you can be there for somebody. And I think with an organization, such as NAMI, I don't think you can say the wrong thing. I think you can help people. You can be a support system as if you're treating them as a friend. Because the last thing somebody who is going through anxiety and depression or any kind of other mental health situation, the last thing that person wants to do is feel like they don't have anywhere to go. So I don't necessarily always think it's an issue of saying the wrong thing. It may not be what the person wants to hear, but it's not necessarily the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's
because people have told me plenty of stuff. Yvonne asked, is your family supportive? Very much so. Very much so. My parents especially, there's stuff going on in my family, right now that I'm kind of staying away from, because that'll just trigger more anxiety, and I'm just trying to stay away from it. But I don't want to get off course. But my parents, my parents very supportive, very, very supportive. I'm fortunate that I do come from a very loving family. We all kind of do our own things around the holidays. We don't spend holidays together. My parents are getting older. They stay at home. My mom does her crossword puzzles. My dad watches golf. My sister and brother-in-law do their own thing. I do my own thing, but we are a very loving family. Honestly, we are. And I get decent support from friends as well. So it helps. It really does. I'm going to say, I know the questions are kind of trickling in. I am very open about talking about this. So if there's something that you're dying to know, you can ask it. I'm pretty much an open book for this. Because I want to be able to get my message and my story across to as many people as possible.
You said the family supportive. What does that look like? A supportive family versus one that you would say would not be supportive. What is
I told you my dad was the one who took me to those appointments on Saturdays. And when the day that that therapist laughed at me, my dad threw me on the couch and ran down the hall and slammed the door and was screaming. And I remember I stopped crying and was listening to this. And I still remember that that day like it was yesterday. I remember it. You don't forget something like that, because my dad never flew off the handle that much. When he flew off the handle that day, he didn't get physical with him, like he didn't punch it didn't get violent, but he was screaming. He was screaming, and I will never forget that. But I still remember the guy's name. You don't forget something like that. But anyways, the family support, has always been there. I'm a normal person. I really am. I just happen to have anxiety. Okay. Oh well, deal with it. And if you can't deal with it, then I'm learning to deal with it.
I'm curious. I always ask this question to pretty much anyone at any space, but what would you have told 10-year-old you in that moment?
Oh God.
That's a tough one, right?
It's a therapy moment. Aaron's going to put us all in therapy here.
Well, no, because I probably would have, if I could go back, if it was scientifically possible to take 41-year-old Eric and go back and talk to 10-year-old Eric, I would probably tell him to just breathe, but look at what you have become. Look
I
at
love
what
that.
look at what you have become. You know, because 10-year-old Eric had the dreams of living this life. So if 41-year-old Eric, well, I'm not going to age myself. I'm still 40. I'll turn 41 at the end of December, but close enough. For the sake of conversation, 41-year-old Eric would tell 10-year-old Eric, you know, as he's getting teased and tormented and bullied in school, you know, just wait it out. It'll be worth it in the long run, because then you can, you know, get revenge with your career, and look how successful you're going to be.
Revenge is the best, right?
Talk about that for a second, Eric. What you talk about your career, and we mentioned in your bio that you've covered some huge stories, and you know, I use my Hamilton quote of how lucky we are to be alive right now. I'm glad that we're able to see it and live it. But when you talk about, you know, look at what you're doing, what is the pinnacle of your career? What would be like that highlight reel that you could tell that 10-year-old Eric of, look at, here's a highlight of something that you never thought you would have done?
Well, I mean, I had to go through a lot to get to this point. I had to do a lot of begging for opportunities and chances, but I also had to have surgery done to my eyes. I had a lazy eye, so I had one eye that would face out and one eye that would face in. So my eyes were always, you know, messed up, for lack of a better term. I found ways to joke around about that when I would get, you know, when people would, you know, point that out on me, like, gee, like I didn't even know that. Thanks for letting me know. You know, so I would start making jokes about it to get them to laugh about it and you know, ignore it. But I had to go through a lot. I had to have that eye surgery you know, done to fix my eyes, to get them to be straight, so that way I could be the news anchor that I am, because it was very noticeable on TV. So that was one thing I had to go through. So that, you know, kind of going back to Aaron's question, it's like, you know, just wait it out. You'll see what your life is going to become, and pretend you don't see me right now, but here I am. You know, this is what you're going to be.
And I have another one, and
That's good.
you know, don't want to get
Yeah.
too personal, of course. Like Aaron said, if you want to answer,
you can ask me whatever you want.
I'm similar in the sense of being an open book, but you know, you'd mentioned having those kind of intrusive thoughts and stuff prior to being diagnosed with anxiety, and these thoughts that kind of took you to a dark place that you didn't really want to be. You know, as you've kind of started going through your treatments and stuff like that, obviously, at least I feel like for the majority of people, they don't really ever go away. But now that you understand kind of why they may happen, or why you may have these intrusive thoughts, like, has it changed the way that you react internally when those pop up, now that you know, hey, this is just my brain doing what it does? You know, how did that kind of change for you?
Those thoughts are no longer outlets. They are never they're not the alternative anymore. I always used to say, well, if something didn't work out, well, it's okay.
Right.
If I have a bad day at work, okay, well, there you go.
Right.
That was always the alternative. I can't picture thinking like that anymore. I can't, because the anxiety had just gotten so bad. But I can't even picture thinking like that anymore. I just can't, and I won't, because I know how to handle it now, and I'm still learning.
Right.
You know, and it's a constant battle. And it's a battle that you're never going to be cured. I think it's just, you have to just learn to take it day by day.
I think it's so important as we now look to the future a little bit of post-COVID. And, I talk about all the time of what is today's 5-year-old going to look like 10 years from now? What is today's 10-year-old going to look like 10 years from now? Mental health, the conversation starts now, but it's not going anywhere for a long time. And I think it's important to have somebody like you behind the anchor desk. Like you said, you watch the story, you edit the story, you keep an eye on the mental health angles of everything that's going to happen from now and until forever, because there's going to be a lot of that. And I think having you there and other community leaders keep being the watchdog is super important.
My big thing was at work was I always had to be in control of everything. I had to learn not to be in control of everything, because I felt like if I wasn't in control of everything, the world was just going to come crashing down, and everything was just going to, fall, and everything was just going to be, the newscast would just be destroyed, and it would be the worst product in the world. I had to learn how to do my own job, and only focus on my job, and be a good coach for the people who are learning. My boss has a really good term of being a good newsroom citizen. That's her favorite term, and I love that term from Susan. Susan's been very, very helpful during all of this. But I just remember I always had to be in control of everything, and I still do to a point. Like I always have to drive my own car. I don't like to ride with other people, because when I'm ready to leave, I'm ready to leave. I still have to be in control of everything, but I'm learning slowly that I'm not going to be, I don't need to be as dominant in every situation.
Any last questions or comments, chats?
Please, I'm here.
I guarantee you, we're going to give you more opportunities, Eric, over the next. Look, both of the NAMI staff is nodding their heads up there, but I guarantee you there's more of this to come as we dig deeper into these kind of things. But it does take courage, it does take hope. All of those things are tangible, as you said. Like I don't like to talk about like courage. We mentioned it earlier. It takes all kinds of forms, but to admit to yourself that you need a break and be willing to walk back into your home to say, I might be giving this up, my dream, whatever, only to find out that you're stronger than ever, doing better than ever later, but you don't know that at the time, and willing to take that step. We commend you for that here. I absolutely appreciate it. And I commend you for, I was going to say, and I commend you for finding us. Like, I think you found us. It wasn't the other way around. So I appreciate that.
Well, this was not me, looking for any kind of publicity either. This was me just,
how can I help? Right. Just what can
right.
I do?
And no, just to show somebody in my position with my career being so public, and having this public job with cameras on me all the time on the news, having to deal with having panic attacks on air, during a live newscast. So that was why I wanted to do it. It can happen to anybody, and it doesn't matter whether you work at a grocery store, if you work at a Publix, if you are a dentist, if you are a chauffeur, if you're a news anchor, it can happen to anybody. You just have to recognize that if you are having struggles, it is okay. And don't get the treatment for anybody but yourself. But there is help out there, and when you get that help and you finally have that aha moment for you, it's the best. It's absolutely the best thing.
Eric, thank you for sharing. Sharing is caring. You will make a difference. And it's important to know no one's exempt from this. No one
Right.
is.
Nope.
And last week I started a family to family class, and it's helped me immensely that maybe I can help a loved one. Thank you.
That's a great thing. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome. Thank
Well,
you.
those of you that are thinking, what can I do? Is there anything I can do to end the stigma? Of course there is, because it is Mental Illness Awareness Week. So this is just day one. Tomorrow night, we're having a Zoom with me again, right, Aaron? It's me again for Ending the Silence for Families. And this is a specific, we do the Ending the Silence presentation for those of you that don't know about it, is we go into the high school and middle schoolers, and we give a talk directly to the students, talk about suicide prevention, talk about mental health awareness, all that type of stuff. But this one is specifically for families, which answers some of the questions of, what does a teenager, what is just normal teenager versus what might be a mental health condition versus just a bad day, as Eric was talking about. So we're going to talk about that stuff. That's tomorrow, 6:30 back here on Zoom. We also, on Friday, we are going green. So Eric, you can find your green tie for Friday. We also have some of these ribbons here, these green ribbons. So Friday is Orlando Goes Green for mental health awareness, as well as on Saturday, it is National Day of Hope for Mental Illness Awareness Week. So again, you can post wear green there. And Sunday the 10th is World Mental Health Day. So that is the entire globe takes a day to think about and focus on mental health. So you can wear green, share, talk about what you've learned, use your little "it's not okay to be okay." Eric had some real zingers in there. I can't remember all of them, but there were some good ones you can use as quotes. So we just thank you for being a part of this tonight. And we certainly thank Central Florida News 13, Spectrum Central Florida News. See, I got the plugins, got it right there.
Spectrum News 13, definitely.
Spectrum News 13. I'll get it right eventually.
That's all right.
We thank them for their tacit support of you, so you could be a part of this, as well as their active support of everybody that's there. So we certainly appreciate. We've had some stories there over the years as well. So and they definitely focus on mental health when there's not something blowing up, which is pretty much every day. But every now and then we can get a mental health story. So all that said, thanks for everybody being here tonight. Eric, stick around for just a couple minutes afterwards. We'll do a quick recap. And if you want any of these ribbons or stuff, call the office. If not, we will see everybody. Our next thing is tomorrow. So thanks for coming.
I put the info in the Zoom or in the chat, so you can grab it from there.
I would actually love one of those ribbons. Where is your office? I would love to come over and get one.
Whitney, we'll get you one. We'll figure it out.
That's what I was going to say. We'll get it connected and we'll get with you for sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We'll get it before Friday for sure.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Is it something that you could pin on?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's just I'm not wearing it because I have my other little one here, but so all right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. I'm going to go get another one of my.
Okay. I need to stop recording.